This is it after endless anticipation, years of speculation, and a barrage of late-night theories. The financial event that countless people around the globe suspected would remain an impossibility has finally materialized into a concrete reality. Global currency traders are in shock. Markets are intensely volatile. And as of this very morning, Saturday, November 8, 2025, the Iraqi Dinar, IQD, and the Vietnamese Dong, VND, are officially trading live on the international Forex market. That's absolutely correct. Two of the most heavily scrutinized currencies in recent financial history have been formally reinstated, and the world's financial institutions are currently scrambling to implement the change. Screens in major financial hubs, New York, London, and Dubai, are showing intense activity, leading analysts to label this the Forex resynchronization of 2025. In this report, we will dissect the significance of this occurrence, explain its impact on individual investors, and explore why this single event could fundamentally alter the trajectory of global money forever. Remain tuned until the very end, as the information emerging from high-level, closed-door meetings is truly astonishing. The initial indications emerged subtly, almost too quietly for the full significance to register. Around 3 a.m. GMT, London-based traders began observing peculiar movements on their dedicated terminals. Uncharacteristic spikes in liquidity were detected in minor currency pairs specifically associated with Iraq and Vietnam. At first, the data was met with complete skepticism. The IQD USD pair flickered into existence for a mere few seconds before disappearing. It then reappeared, and moments later, the VND USD ticker followed suit. Phones started ringing off the hook at trading desks and banks. Analysts urgently sought confirmation. Was this a technical fault, a controlled system test, or had a historic financial event just been initiated? By 4:15 a.m., confirmation was definitively established. The Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, had officially and publicly reinstated the dinar onto all major international Forex trading platforms. Vietnam quickly followed within the hour. Across the global financial community, the initial shock gave way to a wave of disbelief. For decades, highly regarded experts had flatly dismissed the notion that both Iraq and Vietnam could successfully return their currencies to international trading status. Yet here was the irrefutable evidence visible in real time on every Forex screen. In Singapore and London, senior bankers convened emergency conference calls. In Washington, D.C., low-key but urgent meetings commenced between the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and U.S. Treasury officials. The atmosphere on trading floors instantly switched from curiosity to pure high-stakes adrenaline. The rates were undeniably live. The dinar was showing an initial movement around $3.91 per US dollar, with the dong stabilizing near 0.47. These unprecedented numbers alone unleashed a massive wave of activity across all financial centers. For the first time in modern economic history, two long inactive currencies had been restored to life within a single day. Within minutes of the activation, social media channels exploded. Hashtags like on IQD Live Rate, VND Reset, and Forex Shock 2025 were trending globally. Telegram groups, which had been dormant and quiet for years, were suddenly overwhelmed with jubilant excitement. Long-term holders of both currencies, individuals who had maintained their conviction for decades, were sharing screenshots, live rate tickers, and heartfelt emotional declarations. On platforms like X, formerly known as Twitter, traders based in Zurich, Dubai, and Singapore confirmed successful live conversions. Some even posted verified receipts showing IQD and VND trades successfully settling in real time. The digital world was alight with the news, and this time, it was not based on speculation. It was happening. Back in Baghdad, the outpouring of celebration was unprecedented in recent years. As the news spread via social media and national television, thousands of citizens immediately converged on local banks. People were seen holding their old dinar banknotes, weeping, cheering, and celebrating in the streets. "We held out for 20 years for this day," proclaimed one man outside a major banking branch in the capital. "They assured us our money would regain its value. And now it has." Inside the central bank, officials issued a brief but powerful formal statement declaring Iraq's complete and immediate return to global markets. They termed it a day when financial sovereignty was restored. For the Iraqi populace, this outcome transcended economics. It was the reaffirmation of national pride. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, Vietnam was undergoing its own wave of financial transformation. In both Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, banks opened ahead of schedule to manage the overwhelming crowds. The State Bank of Vietnam confirmed that the dong had been officially reinstated and revalued through meticulous coordination with international financial partners. Government officials publicly hailed the event as a historic restoration of Vietnam's true economic value. Citizens patiently and excitedly lined up, exchanging older notes for the new internationally recognized currency. The government guaranteed complete stability, assuring the nation that every single savings deposit, account balance, and financial transaction was fully secure. However, beneath the surface excitement, a massive, highly sophisticated operation was unfolding, one that few outside the highest levels of the banking world even suspected existed. For numerous years, top international banks had been secretly preparing for this very moment. According to multiple insiders, the IMF and elite financial institutions were operating under a confidential initiative designated Project Phoenix. This operation, specifically designed to manage the seamless reintroduction of dormant currencies, was created to prevent any potential financial instability. When the time arrived, the existence of this previously rumored project was confirmed to be real, and it was immediately activated the instant the IQD and VND went live. Inside major institutions, including Deutsche Bank, Chase, and HSBC, preset automated systems immediately engaged. These highly tuned protocols instantaneously balanced market liquidity, updated all necessary currency pair indices, and stabilized Forex corridors to eliminate chaotic fluctuations. For market traders observing the charts, the sudden stability appeared almost miraculous. In truth, it was the result of decades of meticulous, coordinated planning, culminating at the perfect moment. As one veteran analyst remarked, the entire world has been preparing for this without even realizing it. Markets reacted with immediate intensity. The London Stock Exchange, LSE, opened with a strong surge in all banking and energy sectors specifically tied to Iraq. In Tokyo, shares of major Vietnamese manufacturing firms jumped by nearly 20% in the overnight trading session. Prices for global commodities like oil and gold began to fluctuate sharply as traders urgently recalibrated global value chains. The US dollar, while remaining strong, showed a slight softening as investors diversified their asset holdings. Analysts swiftly began calling this the dawn of a multipolar currency era, where global power is no longer concentrated in one currency, but rather emerges from a balanced, interconnected global network of economic powers. In Washington, D.C., unconfirmed reports indicated that Treasury officials held emergency closed-door consultations with IMF representatives to carefully manage the public communication strategy. Their goal was to maintain absolute market calm, while simultaneously acknowledging the undeniable fact that the entire financial landscape had been irrevocably altered. They are meticulously managing public perception, stated a policy insider. They want to prevent panic. They need this massive transition to feel natural, despite being the most significant monetary event in decades. Across Asia and Europe, central banks released measured, nearly identical statements, urging caution and patience while officially confirming the live trading data. The shock was not confined solely to financial professionals. Globally, countless ordinary holders of the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong were waking up to news that would profoundly change their lives. For years, these individuals were subjected to mockery, labeled as conspiracy theorists, and told their investments were a waste of time. Now they were spectacularly vindicated. Social media platforms were inundated with emotional posts, images of old framed banknotes placed beside family photos, messages of sheer joy, gratitude, and utter disbelief. Everyone laughed, wrote one user online. As the sun began its ascent across Europe, the IMF released a brief but definitive statement, confirming what was already clear. Both Vietnam and Iraq had successfully completed their international reinstatements and had met all required structural compliance standards. The message was unambiguous. This was not a temporary system glitch. It was official policy. The IMF lauded the event as having global significance, marking the full reintegration of two major emerging market currencies. Underlying that formal, polished language lay a single powerful truth. The established world financial order had fundamentally shifted overnight. Traders in Dubai confirmed successful live currency conversions between IQD, VND, and USD. In Zurich, private wealth managers were fielding non-stop inquiries from clients demanding immediate rate verification. In Singapore and Hong Kong, Forex trading desks remained operational around the clock. It was no longer business as usual. Every single hedge fund manager, analyst, and trader was forced to immediately adapt to a new financial reality. "It feels like the financial dam finally burst," commented one veteran trader. "Everything we thought we knew about liquidity and trade balances is now being instantly rewritten." And yet, even amidst the global market frenzy, some economic experts urged significant caution. The sudden and substantial revaluation of these currencies, particularly the dinar's sharp appreciation, could cause temporary disruption to regional trade balances. Import and export contracts would need urgent adjustment. However, the prevailing expert consensus is that this short-term turbulence will lead to profound long-term balance. This change is seen as ushering in a fairer global system, one where intrinsic value is dictated by real productivity, Iraq's oil wealth, and Vietnam's manufacturing powerhouse status, rather than merely speculation. The currencies now accurately reflect their nation's true economic worth. Back in Iraq, the government formally declared Saturday, November 8, 2025, a national day of celebration and pride. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani addressed the populace in an emotional, televised speech declaring, "The Iraqi Dinar stands once more as the most powerful symbol of our stability, our sovereignty, and our rightful place in the global economy." Crowds in Basra and Baghdad erupted in cheers. Fireworks illuminated the night sky. People sang national anthems, proudly waving flags and holding their dinar notes high above their heads. This was far more than a financial triumph. It was the rebirth of a nation's history. In Vietnam, the governmental message was equally resonant and powerful. Officials hailed the reinstatement as the rise of a strong Vietnam. Citizens were strongly advised to remain calm, execute exchanges gradually, and maintain trust in the official process. The government guaranteed total stability, fairness, and transparency. As daylight fully spread across Asia, the world watched a nation confidently enter a new phase of financial independence. The emotional scenes from Hanoi displayed a quiet, deep pride, hugs, and tears, the kind of profound satisfaction that only comes from patience finally being rewarded. Across all major international news networks, analysts hotly debated the next steps. Would other emerging market currencies quickly follow suit? Will this single event trigger a wider Forex realignment that fundamentally changes how global investment and trade operate? Many prominent figures believe this is merely the opening move in a chain of economic resets, intended to globally rebalance power. For the immediate future, all indicators point to one inevitable conclusion. The uncontested global dominance of the US dollar is now facing its first genuine challenge in generations. The entire financial map is actively being redrawn. Inside the world's largest trading firms, software engineers worked through the night, diligently updating complex algorithms and recalibrating trading bots. Every system designed to handle Forex pairs had to be rewritten to successfully incorporate the new VND and IQD data streams. It was a massive logistical undertaking, but also compelling evidence of how deeply and permanently the change had taken hold. What was once only a theory whispered in niche online forums has now become the largest global financial system update since the introduction of the euro. As the hours turned into the next day, Saturday, November 8, 2025, the markets began to stabilize. The dinar maintained its strong position above $3 per US dollar equivalent, and the dong maintained its strength. Central banks coordinated silently, and governments issued carefully measured statements. The initial chaos slowly subsided, but the core impact was absolute and irreversible. The world had witnessed the emergence of a new financial reality, one that proved that persistence and enduring belief can ultimately rewrite even the most entrenched economic rules. Now, as the sun begins to rise over Baghdad and Hanoi on Saturday, November 8, 2025, millions are waking up to an entirely new world. A world in which two long underestimated nations have firmly stepped into the global spotlight. A world in which a nation's true value, once obscured by conflict and speculation, has finally been acknowledged. For a vast number of people, this is more than just an economic victory. It is an inspiring symbol of hope and irrefutable proof that history is capable of surprising everyone. The IQD and VND are back. The Forex reset has officially begun, and the world will be permanently changed. Leaked internal memo. The banks can't hide it anymore. Something major has just broken across the global financial community. And for once, the source is not a rumor or online speculation. It is originating from inside the banking system itself. A leaked, highly confidential internal memorandum from Chase Bank, one of the largest financial institutions in the United States, is generating significant noise, and it directly confirms real system adjustments connected to the Iraqi Dinar. For years, people were told this was all baseless hype, talk, and pure theory. But that narrative has now crumbled. The banks are no longer able to conceal the truth. This time the memo is verifiable, the timing is synchronized, and the signs are impossible to ignore. Stay with us because in the next few minutes we will dissect what this means for Iraq, the global banking system, and most importantly, what it signifies for the dinar holder who has waited years for tangible evidence that things are actually moving. The story began quietly. Just another typical day in the financial sector, until a Chase Bank regional office transmitted an internal communication to a restricted group of currency staff and branch managers. The subject line of the document read, "Upcoming adjustments, foreign currency revaluation monitoring." Those 6 words alone instantly triggered alarms across the financial community. Why? Because that specific phrase has historically been utilized exclusively just before major international rate shifts are made public. The memo was circulated discreetly, intended only for the eyes of internal personnel. However, once it inevitably leaked, the internet exploded with discussion. The real attention grabber was not just the title, but the specific detail within the memo. The confidential memo explicitly listed the IQD, Iraqi Dinar, by name, in bold as a currency that required immediate monitoring for upcoming changes in exchange rate visibility. Now, let's simplify this. When a Tier 1 bank like Chase directs its staff to monitor a foreign currency for potential changes in rate visibility, it signals that their internal systems are actively preparing to display new figures. This implies potential updates to the exchange rates that have not yet been announced to the public. This level of internal preparation is never random. Banks initiate these critical internal checks only when they receive upstream data from international financial systems, which are typically connected to central banks or major institutions like the IMF or Treasury channels. Therefore, if Chase is actively configuring its system to watch for IQD rate shifts, it's because a highly significant event is transpiring behind the scenes, and the bank is preparing its infrastructure before the public announcement is released. What makes this development truly shocking is the historical fact that for many years, large U.S. banks deliberately avoided even acknowledging the Iraqi dinar. Many branches outright refused to discuss it, often claiming it was even more telling. The leaked Chase memo reportedly included a clause stating that any internal updates concerning rate visibility must be treated as confidential and highly restricted. Staff were strictly instructed not to share or discuss these updates publicly until formal corporate approval was explicitly granted. That specific line serves as irrefutable confirmation of the extreme sensitivity surrounding the developments. It proves the memo was never intended for public consumption. This was a private, internal heads-up designed to discreetly prepare employees for the inevitable questions that will arise once the new rates appear. It should be seen as a soft launch or internal staging before a major product release. They want everyone fully prepared for the moment the switch is flipped. But here is the single most critical takeaway. Banks do not expend valuable resources, staff training time, or internal memo warnings on hypothetical currencies. Every single internal notice of this nature is backed by verifiable technical data. If Chase's back-end systems are actively being calibrated to display IQD rate adjustments, it is because rate data has already begun flowing into their back-end servers. In plain language, they are preparing for something definitively real. These kinds of memos only appear when the bank's back-end servers are actively synchronizing with global rate feeds. This is not a theoretical test. It is a preparatory step for a real-world financial event that could occur at any moment. The timing of this memo leak is both highly revealing and perfectly synchronized. Simultaneously, Iraq is in the process of finalizing its most crucial steps in its economic transition. Over the past several weeks, the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Iraq have aggressively implemented significant reforms. The 2025 federal budget is now finalized. New digital payment systems are fully operational, and new frameworks for utilizing the dinar in international trade are undergoing testing. These are not random reforms. They are foundational prerequisites. They represent the steps every nation must complete before permitting their currency to globally adjust or float. The critical phrase utilized by Iraqi officials, exchange rate unification, is no small matter. Historically, this technical term has been consistently used by several nations immediately before they revalue or adjust their national currency. It is the precise technical process of synchronizing domestic and international exchange rates. Therefore, when Iraq announces it is completing exchange rate unification, it means they are actively preparing to synchronize with global systems, a direct correlation to the internal
monitoring being performed by Chase Bank. Two sides of the same
story are unfolding simultaneously. Now, recall those mysterious test rates that briefly appeared on foreign exchange monitors last week, showing the IQD near 5.03 and the VND around 3.95? At the time, they were widely dismissed as system glitches. But now, in light of this leaked memo, the pieces suddenly fit together. Those were not random placeholder figures. They were test numbers linked to internal rate visibility trials. Major banks routinely conduct these trials before a global currency rollout. It serves as a necessary check to ensure their internal systems can successfully process and handle the new exchange data once it is officially made live. Therefore, those test numbers may actually represent potential future rates that were being discreetly verified before their public release. For anyone who has followed the dinar story for years, this is the most concrete, verifiable movement seen to date. We are no longer discussing mere rumors or market speculation. This is a documented high-level internal banking process. A memo containing specific technical language, explicit monitoring instructions, and clear confidentiality clauses cannot be faked. That is not market gossip. That is banking operation. The profound difference this time is that the conversation has moved definitively from anonymous internet forums to the very heart of the U.S. financial system. This is the single biggest signal available that a change is not only possible, but is imminent. What makes the involvement of Chase Bank so compelling is that they are not just any financial player. They are one of the U.S. Treasury's largest settlement partners for cross-border foreign exchange. They work directly with international regulatory networks. This means that any directive for Chase to begin monitoring a specific currency typically originates from a higher authority, most likely channeled through CBI, IMF, or Treasury coordination. That established chain of command confirms legitimacy. A bank doesn't spontaneously decide to start tracking the Iraqi dinar unless there is a coordinated, global signal from the highest levels of financial leadership. As if the Chase memo weren't enough, insiders from other major U.S. financial institutions, including Bank of America and Wells Fargo, have quietly confirmed that they received similar internal updates. Some reports indicated that their internal currency feeds showed placeholders for revaluation monitoring with the IQD explicitly included. When multiple major U.S. banks are executing the same precise internal procedure simultaneously, it is absolutely not a coincidence. It is a synchronized global operation. This level of coordination is only utilized when international systems are being aligned for immediate activation. So the biggest question on everyone's mind is when? When does all this preparation finally transition into a real public rate change? While no one outside of the core central banking network knows the exact day, all the evidence suggests we are firmly in the final phase. When banks are actively monitoring rate feeds, it means the back-end regulatory approval process is nearing completion. Historically, these highly sensitive internal memos appear only days or a few short weeks before an official public update. Given Iraq's own public announcements regarding the completion of the final stages of reform, the clock is ticking faster than ever before. Now, let's briefly consider the implications of these potential rates. If the numbers observed in testing are accurate, IQD near 5.03 and VND near 3.95, the Iraqi dinar would instantly become one of the strongest currencies in the entire Middle East. This value would accurately reflect the nation's immense and growing oil revenue, its financial restructuring, and its dedicated push for international trade autonomy. For investors, this could represent one of the most significant currency revaluations in modern financial history. However, It remains absolutely critical to remember that regardless of how promising this looks, patience and disciplined caution are paramount. When the moment arrives and the new rates appear, banks will roll them out via official verified channels, not through private exchanges, not through social media offers, and not through shady third-party deals. Anyone holding the dinar must remain calm, stay informed, and only execute exchanges through legitimate, officially regulated financial institutions. Scammers are guaranteed to emerge at moments like this, falsely offering early access or secret exchange rates. Do not fall for these attempts. The authentic update will be undeniable. It will come directly from the banks once corporate approval is formally released. This is the moment many have been anticipating. Years of speculation, doubt, and disbelief are finally being met with real, institutional acknowledgement. Whether this happens this coming week or next month, the evidence is now indisputable. The banks are preparing their systems. Iraq has stated it is ready, and the international framework is demonstrably aligning. For the first time, all three critical components, Iraq's financial reforms, the global banking systems, and U.S. bank confirmations, are moving forward in perfect sync. This has never happened before. What does this development mean for the wider global economy? A